Hello Mila, hello Jack, and welcome to Storytime with Grandad. Today's book is called Goodnight Monster. It was late, but Dan wasn't tired. "Tell me a story, Mum, please," he begged. "Just a little one." "It's too late for any more stories," said Mum. "Go to sleep." "I can't sleep," said Dan. "I'm thirsty." "There's a glass of water by your bed," said Mum. "I'm too hot," Dan complained. "I'll open the window," said Mum. "How's that?" "I'm lonely," said Dan. "You can't be lonely," said Mum. "I'll only be downstairs. Good night, Dan. Sleep tight." And she went away. Dan couldn't sleep. He stared out of the window at the moon. Then he watched the shapes the shadows made on the floor and on the wall behind his bed. One shadow was bigger than all the others. "Like a monster," thought Dan. "But it's just my own shadow, really." He wiggled his fingers, but the shadow stayed the same. Then he kept very still, but the shadow began to move. It swayed slowly from side to side, getting bigger and bigger. "Mum!" called Dan. "Oh, Mum, there's a monster under my bed, and it keeps jumping out. I can see its shadow." Mum ran in and pulled the curtains across the window. "That's only the old apple tree in the garden," she said. "You don't need to worry about that. Now close your eyes and go to sleep." Dan closed his eyes tight. He rolled over and his quilt slipped to the floor. He pulled it back quickly. "That felt like someone tugging my quilt off," thought Dan. Of course it wasn't. "I'll just check there's no one there." Dan opened his eyes and saw two large hairy feet sticking out from under his bed. "Mum!" wailed Dan. "Hurry, Mum! There's a monster under my bed. I can see its feet." Mum ran into the room and looked under the bed. "It's your new furry slippers, Dan," she said. She smiled, picking them up. "Look, what a fuss about nothing. Now go to sleep." Dan still couldn't sleep. He listened to himself breathing. It sounded very loud. Then he held his breath. The breathing went on. "I expect it's just me I hear, breathing through my nose," thought Dan. "But I'll have a quick look to make sure." He hung over the side of the bed and peered underneath. Big white teeth grinned back at him out of the darkness. "Mum!" shouted Dan. "Come quick! There's a monster under my bed. I can see its teeth." Mum came upstairs and felt under Dan's bed. "That's what you saw," she said. "It's just that terrible noisy toy Granny gave you. I thought we'd managed to lose that. What's it doing under your bed?" Dan lay back and kept very still. He was sure he could feel something moving under his bed. "Of course there's nothing there," said Dan, "but I'll just make certain." Dan leaned out of bed and stared bravely underneath. Two round shiny eyes glittered at him in the dark. "Mum!" yelled Dan. "Quick! There's a monster under my bed. I can see its eyes." Mum came back slowly, knelt on the floor and reached under the bed. "Here's your monster," she sighed. "One roller boot. I do wish you'd be more tidy." "Dan, now it's time you were asleep. I don't want to hear another squeak out of you until morning." Dan listened to Mum's footsteps going downstairs. It was quiet in his room. The curtains moved softly in the night air. Swish, 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 swish. Dan heard a small, sad sound coming from underneath his bed. Wah! It went. Wah! Mum! Yelled Dan. Go to sleep, yelled Mum. But there's a monster under my bed and it's going wah! Well, tell it to go to sleep, shouted Mum. It's much too late for a monster to be awake. Dan lay flat on the floor and looked right under the bed. Two bright eyes looked nervously back at him. Oh, gulped Dan. Wah, whimpered the monster softly. You should be asleep, said Dan severely. It's very late. I can't sleep, said the monster. There's a horrible creature on top of my bed. It's got hanging down hair and big round eyes and an upside down face and great big open mouth. It keeps staring at me and roaring. Oh, it's awful. Dan thought about it. You must mean me, he said proudly. I'm Dan. You're quite safe with me. But what a fuss we've been making. And then a nasty long arm comes swoop, swoop, and takes away all my toys, wailed the monster. That's my mum, said Dan. You don't need to worry about her. Well, I do worry, said the monster. Anyway, I'm thirsty. There's a glass of water by the bed, said Dan. I'm too hot, complained the monster. The window is open, said Dan. I'm lonely, said the monster. You can't be lonely, said Dan. I'm here. The monster sighed. It was almost a yawn, but he turned it into a sigh. Tell me a story, Dan, he begged. Just a little one. I can't, said Dan. I'm too sleepy. I'll tell you one tomorrow night. All right, said the monster. Good night, Dan. Good night, monster, said Dan. And they went to sleep. The end. Hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, Mila. Bye-bye, Jack. Bye.